2 years after nearly 160 people died in a crash, a major change in course from aeronautics company Boeing. Boeing now accepting responsibility for the crash and acknowledging that its 737 MAX airplane, which went down shortly after takeoff in Ethiopia in 2019, was flawed. Newsy's national correspondent James Packer joins me now live tonight from Burbank Airport in California. James, when that plane went down, and I remember it because I was on the air covering this, it was the second crash involving a Boeing 737 MAX in 6 months.
Yeah, and Natalie, at the time, it was like the dream plane of the aviation world. It was supposed to be this big new development for airlines and for government and cargo operators. And then with that second crash, it quickly became the bane of Boeing's existence. And now, today, with this agreement with the victims' families, they are taking full acceptance of responsibility for that crash in Ethiopia, which is a huge shift from what they initially said.
A massive deal with Boeing.
It is the end of the end.
Admitting fault for the 737 MAX crash that killed more than 150 people in Ethiopia. The second in a pair of crashes that grounded a worldwide fleet of airliners and cratered the company into crisis.
The most important thing for Boeing right now is to put this as far behind them as they possibly can.
The families of those killed on Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in 2019 agreeing to a deal that will limit the scope of further investigation into the crash, but ensure settlement amounts are negotiated in the U.S., likely meaning higher payouts for families of African victims who might otherwise have chased smaller sums.
I think that the writing was on the wall. We saw it in our discussions with Boeing.
Brian Kabateck has helped negotiate settlements for the families of victims in the first MAX crash. He was not involved in this case.
A lot of times, these are very difficult conversations to have because family members want to teach a lesson. Family members say things like, we want to take the corporation down. We want to see people go to prison. We want to see effective changes taking place. And as the lawyer, your job is to report to them that the only thing we actually can do is recover civil damages in cases.
The deal opens the door to massive settlements for each family, which will be negotiated separately. It's a clear signal of Boeing's fault, finally something they're willing to admit.
These tragedies continue to weigh heavily on our hearts and minds.
The deal, a massive shift from Boeing's initial posture after the crashes. Under then CEO Dennis Muhlenberg, the company shifted blame.
The history of our industry shows most accidents are caused by a chain of events. This again is the case here.
But it was the company's own design and conduct that investigators found was largely to blame for the crashes. Shoddy oversight, concealed concerns, and a faulty system about which they left pilots in the dark, MCAS. The Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System is something that still exists on the 737 MAX. It's supposed to help avoid a stall when the plane is going so slow or is pitched up so high, airflow over the wings all but stops. The plane loses lift and the plane drops. The MCAS forces the nose of the plane down if it thinks the plane is stalling. In that case, nose down would recover a stall. It knows whether the plane is stalling by looking at readings from two sensors on the nose of the plane, sensors that tell the system how high it's pitched. The MCAS has changed significantly now, but in the original design, the one on the two flights that crashed, if just one of those sensors was wrong, the MCAS would push the nose down anyway. But if the plane wasn't actually stalling, it would produce a nosedive, not a stall recovery. The MCAS has changed so much since then, a repeat scenario wouldn't be possible.
They're probably safer now, I gotta tell you, than ever.
But the holes in the MCAS show the degree to which Boeing's own design is to blame for the crashes.
Boeing is not the same as it was 2 years ago, but they have more work to do.
The FAA still getting white-hot scrutiny for its oversight of Boeing, which missed or overlooked problems with the MCAS.
I can say with confidence that we are doing more for certification oversight, and we are doing it more systematically than we were this time last year.
Just this week, Reuters reporting the FAA told Boeing some of the people it has overseeing plane safety certification aren't qualified and aren't meeting FAA expectations. A new law mandates the FAA individually approve every person Boeing wants to assign to certification tasks. Another attempt to prove the FAA has changed as Boeing prepares to bring out the checkbook in an admission of fault that seemed inconceivable just 2 years ago.
Someone who resolved a number of cases for the 737 Indonesia Lion Air crash I can say that Boeing has been fair in the negotiations, and I suspect they'll do the same with Ethiopia.
I mean, I would fly Boeing, any Boeing product tomorrow, and in fact, I do all the time.
So, you know, the next big step here for Boeing is doing things right for long enough, Natalie, that they start to earn back some of the trust they lost in this crisis for pilots and airlines. On the airline front, I'll tell you, one big indication of where they're headed, they're already ordering millions of dollars worth of 737 MAXs.
Newsy's James Packard with the latest on that story. Boeing coming back from the brink there. Thanks so much, James.